140 subscribers. And what we generally do is we actually input it what do we do? It's for onboarding programs as well. So people who join
Okay.
Bukit Vista, they will see these things, and then they will be able to learn from some of the best people in the world on how to manage communities and to think about public policy. Let me introduce the two people on our community team that were able to attend this today. One is Rian, and the other is Andre. I'll go to Andre first. Andre, would you please introduce yourself?
Okay, hello Ricardo. Nice to meet you here. I saw your LinkedIn profile is very different with people that we used to have a networking before, and also that maybe you. I'm forgot to introduce my name. My name is Andre. I'm here, the community team of Bukit Vista. Here I'm working especially for the Jogja region, because we have Bali and Yogyakarta region here in Bukit Vista, and I'm managing the Yogyakarta one. And yeah, I saw that your LinkedIn profile is very interesting, and I'm looking for your story or maybe some idea to share with us. And I'd like to again say thank you with you, share for giving your time to having a discussion with us. Nice.
Definitely. Yes. Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, perfect. Let's go next to Rian.
Hi, good evening, Ricardo. Nice to meet you. My name is Rian. Seeing say, we work as a community manager here. It's really good opportunity to see people like you, because like everybody else say, we never really have people that engage with the stakeholders, it is a really heavyweight. It's a heavyweight class. So like so it's a pleasure to have you here today, because we're really looking forward to have experience on how to manage and engage with our community, which consists of 180 unit owners, property owners. So yeah, we're looking forward to share the idea, and looking forward to have that. Thank you for your time, Ricardo.
No, thank you. And a little bit about myself. Well, you already read to my profile, but like what brings me here is that I really love to meet new people, to engage with new people, to have as broader experience as possible. And I hope this is a learning experience for me as well. Like I've never been to Asia in general, to Southeast in specific either. My work experience has been mainly Latin America, but I've seen during my work specifically at Airbnb, there's a lot of similarities on like how the communities react and how communities are interacting with each other. So I had a colleague that worked specifically in she like the whole APAC region, but she was specifically hired to manage mainly like more directly Southeast Asia, as I was directly working with the Caribbean. So our roles were very similar in like ways of engaging with people. So I think like when we get into like a more question and answering, I will be able to like bring some of my experiences and see some correlations on way that we can, because at the end of the day, people are people, even if we are like 12 hours apart. And but I think like there's a lot of commonalities just because of like the way that people interact with each other, is the islands, the climate, the familial, the food. So there's a lot of things that you can connect with people all over the world, and I think there's a lot of especially with the way that we cook pork is very important as well.
All right, fantastic. Ricardo, was this Afril or somebody else like on the APAC team at Airbnb that managed?
Siobhan. No.
Okay, got it.
It was after your time, I think.
I think so. Okay. Well, fantastic. Let's go into the. I would also echo that I spent about a year in Latin America, traveling across Brazil, Argentina, and a few Central American countries. And so I also noticed synergies and also similar approaches. So climate, food. So okay, let's go ahead and kick that off then. The first part is I saw that you were a global organizing program manager at Airbnb most recently, based out of Miami, and also regional. What would you describe as, like, let's say, in like a very concise way, what's the mission of that program? What was the mission of that role?
I think that the most important part was to build a communities that can outlast the current immediate political activation of the moment. So my approach to community building, specifically when you want to engage people for a political role, if you're like trying to engage either in like policy advocacy or like more of a traditional political activation that might be like meeting with some policymakers or with state officials, or like the first thing that you have to do is create a community that can outlive that specific interaction. So it's not only the immediate political action that they have to do, but to start creating synergies between the same community that can like feed off of itself. So at the beginning, you try to find archetypes. You find the natural host, like the person that will always bring people together. You try to find someone that is more of a connector. The person that knows who to call or how to bring people together. You need to have someone that it's more of like advocate, one that is more comfortable in public speaking. So you need to have different people in this community that can like help each other out to a specific goal. And then you have to get activities or promote engagement between themselves so that they can foster that sense of community. So you do it, you can do it two ways. If you have an immediate political action that you need to do, then you can focus all the people on that specific goal, and from that like crisis, you can create then a community afterwards. So you get a common sense, like a common goal. So everyone is focusing on that crisis. And while you're doing that, then you're connecting people with each other with a common goal. And once you get that, then you have all that momentum and you transform it into something that will be more sustainable. Or you can do it proactively, and then you just start building the community with no crisis in sight, which is something that we wanted to do a lot, and that we like either bringing people together for a meet and greet, happy hour, something that is more social, more light, so that people know each other, connect with each other, and start and building that sense of community around maybe not a specific policy goal or a crisis, but a common set of values. And then you engage with them with questions, with topics. You can do like sharing experiences, and then the archetypes change a little bit. Then you want to know who's the most good at like interior decorating, or who's better at the cleaning aspect or security, or who has contacts with suppliers in terms of like, and then you build a community around helping each other out to succeed in the business, and then you transfer it when the crisis comes.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. All right. That's. Tendi, thank you for joining us at the moment. Tendi's one of our senior hospitality members. He's doing extensive work also in our community. I'll let Tendi introduce himself.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
My name is Tendi. Yeah, so in Bukit Vista, I'm as a host and then the community manager as well. So here I would like really learn about how you manage the community, and then how you build a strong community with the great engagement. So I will to know more about your experience. Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ricardo, for that intro. That was actually really interesting. it sounds a little bit to me like what you're doing is lobbying. Is that correct? You're sort of kind
Yes,
of going to okay, so this is what it is. Okay, got it.
that was what my main like yes.
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
Does that word have? I'm using it because I'm an engineer, so I'm just like, okay, that sounds like lobbying. Is that the appropriate word to use in this particular case, or does that have connotations?
It's okay. It depends on I don't mind it, but we were actually empowering people to self-advocate.
I see. Okay.
So lobbyists are more like people that are trained and that are doing this specific. We were actually community building and organizing in the American sense of the word. Go and call your government official or show up on a hearing but the thing is that is different everywhere that you do it. Like in Latin America, people are not that politically active, so the focus was more directed to specific people that we wanted to touch, and that was more matchmaking. So we know this politician is more susceptible to hear better for a older woman.
Yes.
Or this guy is into tech, so we need a young entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So we would match make the government official to the voice that would resonate more with him or her. So that was a different situation. But in terms of building bigger and bigger groups, I would do the proactive route and just build a community that can fit up of itself and can help each other and have a common set of values.
Yep.
That they can even be friends. I have this, and this is going to be a little bit of a detour, but I think it's very important for me. In Argentina specifically, we'd have this group of people that were engaging because there was going to be this regulation that they wanted to affect, and they wanted to be part of that conversations because the hotel lobby was there, but the hosts were not there. So we started building this community.
Got it.
And long story short, we did this group we call their home sharing clubs. The two leaders of the group, a guy that was actually an American that moved to Argentina 20 years ago and stayed and never left.
Uh-huh.
And then this younger woman that is born and raised from there. This is in Salta, which is in the northern part of.
I've been to Salta. I remember that.
They met, they fell in love, and they're now a couple.
Okay.
And they're still going strong. They actually went to a wedding of our colleagues in Buenos Aires, and we're part of the whole thing.
Okay.
So to be able to do these kind of connections and to get people to know each other to the point that they fall in love, so that can happen, and that happens because you know how to align people with their own set of values. And if you bring people together that are naturally inclined to be together, then you're just helping things that will normally probably not do because they didn't have the chance to meet. But once they meet, you're just facilitating something that would happen anyway if they met by chance. You're just helping chance.
That's actually a pretty interesting topic. Yeah, I've always wondered, because I've been to community events sometimes where I thought wait, what is the purpose of this, right? I've been to community events where simply they weren't advertising anything. They weren't pushing any product or anything. They just got everyone together to eat, I think, eat satay or something. This was once in Singapore. And I noticed that, yeah, that's exactly what happened. It's just people that I think from a specific, I think they were just expats that were working in Singapore. So they just essentially had this event. And yeah, the community just started growing from there because essentially we were working in different buildings, but we had no reasons to actually meet each other unless somebody gave us a reason. And because that happened, then there were, I think, bonds that happened past that. My question now goes to this particular. You're activating this community. You're building this towards political and legislative goals. What's the goal? Is it to legalize Airbnb, or is it to gain more? Is it like a defense against the hotel lobby? What's the mission of the community?
The mission would be to like be part of the broader conversation, and at the end would be to regulate Airbnb the way that like is more sensible. So it's not necessarily legalization, because like we're not illegal in like it's just lack of regulation, and we're actually being proactive in like, yes, we want you to regulate us, but we want to be an active part of that conversation, so that when regulation does come, it makes more sense to everyone. So it's empowering the community to be part of that conversation and to lift that voices. So it's not necessarily me from Airbnb or my colleagues in the public policy department, like more traditional lobbyists, just talking to the politicians, but the same, like the actual people that are going to be affected by this regulation, pushing for what they need. So what we did, we had this like symbiotic relationship. At the same time that I, as an expert in policy and communication, I have my colleagues that are more like in the lobbying part. I was working with the community, explaining what we were doing in terms of policy making, and getting their feedback from like what makes more sense, because every city is different, every community is different. That's right. I am from Puerto Rico and I live in Miami, and I wouldn't presume to know like Mexico City or Buenos Aires more than people from Mexico City and Buenos Aires. So we get that like first-hand information, that like the expertise from the locality, and then we incorporated that in our way of thinking, and then we push together. So at that one time, you have people just talking to politicians as like the company, but then you have the actual constituency talking to the people that like actually are going to be affected by this community.
Excellent. This is actually really good timing, Ricardo, because we had just spoken with I don't know if you remember her, Natalie Bonato. She had worked on the Brazil.
She was in Brazil, I think. Yeah.
She was in Brazil, and later on she went to work where we talked to her. Was it last night or 2 nights ago? I think about 2 nights ago, and she mentioned this very similar pattern about advocacy. She would look for evangelists within the community to carry the message forward, and very much what I think you're mentioning right now. This idea of a borrowed voice, of not like being directly, but actually getting the community to come to their own realization what should be done, and then taking action to get that. Interesting. Did you find that, let's say, this is here's a good question. Is this something that you believe every Airbnb host community should do, or is it just communities that, let's say, are under a sort of a microscope for regulation and such? It sounds like there's quite a lot of work involved. And
there's a lot of work. I think that every community should do it. I think that like the possibility of having like specific resources in terms of like human power to help is not realistic. But you can find like people that can like do it by themselves, and you can just go one-on-one with them, and they can create their own community, and you just are like a consultant to them.
Got it.
I think it's necessary to like everybody to engage, because if there is regulation eventually, or there is like as much as you can be proactive and you can say, I live here, I do this for a living, this is my income, I want this to work, I want to like help my community as well, I want to be an outstanding citizen, but I want regulation that makes sense for me, it makes sense for our government, and it allows me to prosper. So you should engage. So I think like realistically, having someone that it's on top of every single market is not a way to go. Right. But what we're trying to do, like, and the things that we can do more now with the COVID, and like the new normal and things that we can foresee for like the next crisis is to engage people like with this. Like we have Facebook groups, we have WhatsApp, we have Zoom calls. So you can create private groups that people can come together, and that you know that every single person that is in that group is part of that community. And that can grow exponentially. And then you can like post interesting topics, news, tips, content, digital content, like, or creative, like something that can be shareable. And you start building that momentum digitally, so that when you have to activate in the real world, you have a much broader community from where to draw.
I get it. Actually, this is actually pretty interesting. So I think what you've mentioned to me, I'm now actually pivoting to one of our programs. So one of the programs that Tendi and Andre and Rian are working on are these programs to actually improve the efficiency of all these different units that we're operating in. But I think what I'm gaining from you is that it shouldn't be that we are pushing on our own, right? We're not like, hey, do this, do this. It should be more like where we start creating advocates. We're going to take people who are doing well, and we're going to get them to actually champion this as a belief that, hey, look, if you do this, you're going to be good. And then start taking their voice and get their conversations to create engagements laterally, and then to create these common values. And then because they feel ownership in it, that will naturally then draw, okay, interesting.
So it's always so much better if you have a peer. Like if you from Bukit Vista are talking to host X, there is one way of doing it, no? And then you can, there's always this, like this is your job and you're like working with them. And or to them, and not necessarily it's the tools that you have. It feels more like you're trying to push something that you think it works. But if you can find this, and I think like every community has it, and you must know which is your best earner, or who has the best at going back to like either cleanliness or design or security, the common topics, or who's been able to manage the business in the most creative way, or who is growing the most. So you find those people and you shine a light to them, and you just build. You could do webinars, you could do like this, like I'm doing with you. You could do with a host that that is succeeding in one specific, or is expert in an architect or something,
right?
A designer, or like you get them, and you like they talk among each other.
I get it. Actually, wow, that's really wow. You just sparked another thought in my head, Ricardo, because we've been doing all these sessions with people, with everybody except the people in our community.
No, but this is a good start. Like, of course, the next step would be to like go to the community.
It's so obvious now that you've mentioned it, but I realized that what we have been doing was actually targeting an employee community or an employee future community. We've been doing this to actually educate ourselves, but I hadn't thought about actually applying professional networking to the community, and then taking that and then sharing that to other people in the community as sort of like a way to, like you said, take the engagement and then think of a way to scale it digitally and get it to grow.
And there's a lot of incentive there as well. Like people like to like get tagged for like their expertise, and like that person that you call to talk to other hosts to like he's going or she is going to do better, because now they're going to believe that they're an expert, because they are, but it gives them a higher level of ownership of what they do, and they feel this sense of pride. And at the same time, other people that might not be as successful see this person and say, if he can or she can do it, I can do too. Or, oh, he's great at this. I want to be better. And then you get like the level keeps just going up and up, because that's what people do. Like, if you create a positive interaction, people will always push everyone to be better. If you create a negative interaction, then the same in reverse. So as long as you're like painting people in a positive light and trying to like move the community forward, it creates an energy that will lift everyone up.
Got it. So I was gonna ask actually, because sometimes I think we've all felt that it feels like you're pushing an elephant, right?
Yes.
You're pushing an elephant, and not just that, your mission is to push the entire herd. But I think what I'm learning right now through this discussion, it shouldn't be like you're pushing the elephant. It should be you're motivating one elephant to move, and because that elephant moves, then all the other elephants start sort of following
Exactly.
that. Okay.
Exactly.
And that's how you actually engage the herd. Okay.
Another thing that is very important to notice is like people are doing this because they want to. Like they don't have to do it. Like I think like some motivations are better than other, because if this is your primary income, you are super motivated to continue to do well. But sometimes, and it's in advocacy specifically, like not everyone wants to go and speak to politicians or speak to regulators, and it's something that they don't need to do. Like it doesn't necessarily, like someone is going to do it. So you need to be conscious of the fact that people get tired, people have other stuff to do, families, like maybe this is not their primary income, so they have another job that they have to attend to. So be wary of not overcharging people that you're using or like you're engaging as leaders. So don't rely on one person. You need to have more than one so that they can share responsibilities. Try to find like what their expertise is, what their interests are, so that you can draw from that interest the most that you can. So people love to show other people what they're good at. So find what they're good at and go from there.
That's actually it's so obvious, but it's not so obvious when you're doing it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I took some notes down. People like to show off what they're good at. As I wonder this idea about, let's say, as you have a mission, right? You have like a plan, you have a schedule, you have a deadline, you have a budget. But you're working through people who are essentially volunteers.
Yes.
You're not paying them. You're not able to like say you need to do this. You don't have that direct control. So in that particular framework, how do you balance expectations? I guess, right? Like let's say, for example, there's a law coming down and it might, or like let's say COVID, right? We want all the people in our community to use new cleaning standards such that they are COVID friendly. We want to digitize their check-in so that they don't need to come face to face with a staff member. So if we have, let's say, plans of our own for a timeline and a roadmap how to do that, but we're working through a community who is essentially volunteer based, can you? And it can be very sporadic, right? Like there'll be weeks where you get a lot of engagement, things feel really great, and then next week, is a holiday or whatever. People have other things to think about, and is it a matter of changing our expectations and just knowing that hey, that's just going to happen, or is it a matter of understanding what we can control better, or is there something else involved too?
So I think that it's very important to be transparent. One. Open communication is imperative, and flexibility. Like you have to be flexible, and you need to expect flexibility from the other side as well. So as long as you see each other as partners and define what the roles are and what are you able to do or not able to do, and as long as those are defined from the beginning, they should be no problem. So everybody knows, like if you know that you're working with volunteers, They know they're volunteers. They know that you don't have like a checkbook that you can like pay them because they're volunteers, and you need to communicate as clearly as possible and as honestly as possible what the outcome that you want to have is and how to get there and why it makes sense for them. And specifically for the COVID situation and with the like digital check-ins or like you have to communicate the value that it has for them because it certainly has the value. So as long as you can like they understand that this is in their best interest, they'll do it. In terms of the calendar, then you need to have like post lines, like benchmarks, no, and not be like super rigid on that calendar because you're not gonna be able to control it at all.
Okay.
So if you know that you have to get to X place in an X amount of money, you have to. The only thing that you can control is when do you start working and what can you do with that. So if you need to have 5 people engaged by March, you know that you need to start building that in January.
Got it. Got it.
This is ideally, of course. Not always is like that.
Understood.
If you have an emergency, then you have to like put more hours and maybe like do direct callings or send a bunch of emails and like massificate the amount of people that you can reach so that statistically you'll have the amount of people that you need. So you have to work with either time, quantity, and like the preparation and try to be as flexible as possible.
Okay.
And be aware and be open for failure. Like if you don't make it, you sometimes cannot make it, and you try again. And there's always another legislative period. Like the law today is not necessarily the law tomorrow. You win some, you lose some, but you can always go back at it and just try again.
Fantastic. And I got a lot of reinforcements again in what you just said that there is this importance to strive for what's in it for them. I think
Yeah.
a lot of times we go about and we see our agenda, which is efficiency, and also we're partners. So like if they don't make money, we make nothing either. Um, but I think I've talked to talking to Natalie. There was this insight that what's in it for them sometimes is yes, it's the money and that's the simple part, but there's also an emotional part, and that takes time to discover and to prioritize too. I think as well the emotional aspect of it. From your point of view, is there a general way to sort of convey what's the value for them to a lot of people? Um, is there or does it need to be individualized? Um, Look, I know you need money because you have a child that needs to go to school and you want them to go to Harvard. So do this and your child can go to Harvard, right? And then you talk to another person. It's like, I know that you need to repay your brother back because you borrowed money from him to build this particular property. Um, is it about that level of understanding value to a person, or can it be like, doesn't everybody just need money from time to time to handle their specific purposes? Like, what is the correct level of intimacy in order to get that connection? You think?
I think it depends on what you want to achieve, like what the level of activation is, and like what do you want to, what the end goal is. At the end of the day, with something like community that is built around income, it's easier. Like if I were like before I was working for Airbnb and like I worked with communities that were more politically inclined and are like and you rally around a cause, and a cause might be more ethereal, and it's a longer term, and it's harder to get people involved in something that it's not as tangible as income. So in terms of income, I think that's one of the big ones. Like everybody can understand, like being able to make money to for whatever the reason, to be better, to survive, to be more comfortable, or just to like because it's fun. Like some people just do it because of sport. I just want to have more money, and that's also valid. But in terms of like building a community, I think for the longer run, and if you want to have something that is self-sufficient and that might endure the ups and downs of the business, because sometimes you are making more money and sometimes you're not, you need to build a community that can withstand upon itself because it fits upon itself. So that go back to finding the people that want to be together and that want to help each other, because it's kind of like a macro matchmaking. Just find those people that are going to light the room, or like keep the conversation going, or want to know like how is your daughter, or like, oh, I remember that your grandson's birthday was yesterday. So you try to build friendships and build a longer sense of ownership in that.
Got it.
And then you can like have like a more substantial foundation that can withstand ups and downs in the business. But in terms of like bringing people together to make income, that's one of the easy ones. People want to be better, and like if this group is going to help me succeed, why wouldn't I want to be in part?
Understood.
So it's about once they're in the group, because getting in the group is easy because you're telling them being in this community will help you succeed.
Right.
Now you have to be providing the resources for that to be true, so that this community can succeed. It has to deliver what it promises.
Yes.
And how you do that is finding those like people that we talked about that are going to be either ambassadors or mentors or examples of success. So, and you as experts and you as like people that can provide like a level of maybe using the platform better, or using the tools, or designing, or giving them access to like the digital checking, or like the cleanliness. I'm sorry, I'm thinking in Spanish. The the
¿Qué es español? Yo hablo un poquito español.
las ¿cómo se dice eso? Ahora no me acuerdo. Like the expertise around the cleanliness, like either products or protocols.
Oh, yes.
So you're teaching them these tools that are gonna help them succeed. Then you can provide that content as well, and that will help them like find value in this community.
Interesting. Okay, let me actually apply a little bit of Socratic method here over to Tendi. Tendi, what do you think has been some of the differences between what we're hearing from Ricardo and what are some of the things that we've been doing ourselves?
Okay, so thank you, Ricardo, and then thank you, Jim, for the time. And I think currently we are trying to reach like the first we try like a group, like a group socialization, like introduce our CSC, the protocol, cleanliness, and everything. But there is the challenge is the for the invite them to join, right? Because every single people have different time, and then everything they have, so it's a bit hard to reach all of them. Even we are like make it like a week time for them, so just like just a few just come, and then like the second we try like reach one by one, like asking them one by one, and then also some people is interesting, some people didn't reply the message, and some people is join, but on the training process they are slow, like that. And then I think from what you said, if we are take it one, for example, like one partner that really interesting and then really fast on the training program, and then completely the training program, and then running the protocol, the cleanliness protocol for advertise, and then to get more guests on the house. I think that's really good idea as well. And then I was thinking as well, how we spread out this kind of the owner, so our community can know, oh, this is the, for example, this owner is the best owner in the Uluwatu. They have the best property in in our area, like this specific area. And then how we spread out the information more efficiently, is it through the, we make the Facebook group for our community and then post it there, this is the kind of owner have a running protocol and they have a lot of booking, so they everybody is interesting, or do just enough on the group WhatsApp, then we just post it on the group WhatsApp, and then invite all the owner on the just one group, and then share one experience and one training program there or everything. So I think, yeah, I was thinking how can spread out the message, if when I got this partner to be my what's called my partner, yeah, and I believe they can spread it. How they can help to spread it, this partner to spread it. Yeah. Yes.
That's actually, yeah, that's something. Thank you, Tendy, for that contribution. That kind of triggered a thought actually, which is when you do get this community activated, um, do you rely on them to find their own channels to then spread the message, or do you need to stage that up? Do you need to sort of become their manager and put them on the stage and give them the opportunity to sort of broadcast? Or do you just say, well, since this person is successful, they'll just naturally tell everybody through their own way? Or do you still need to control the channel and the timing for the messaging?
I think you should at the beginning, definitely. Like if you want to make something happen, you have to make something happen. You don't want to leave it a chance. Like you know who these people are, so connect with them beforehand, and then and they will find the value, because as I told you, people just want to share their experiences, because either because of personal pride or because they're naturally generous. Like I would always assume best intentions, and then you just present them with the opportunity to share what they know with the world.
Okay.
So what I would do is if you want to, I know that the most difficult part of everything is getting people together or getting people in a room. You have this event and no one comes, and you have to be open to that situation. Sometimes people don't come, so you can do it if you need to have the numbers, because that's part of the end game, and you need to build more community. Then you need to prepare for that. And if you need 10 people in the room, you have to invite 100. I'm being a little bit exaggerated, but 60. You need to invite 60 if you want at least 15, because from the people that say yes, from the people then drop out, that's more or less the percentage of people that you have. But the other thing is that people are busy, that people are doing other stuff, so give options. If you do a group, if you do the Facebook group and you have people that are already engaging, then you say, next Thursday we're gonna have a 1-hour webinar with this host that is the most successful in X topic. Join us, and then you can leverage that person's also interest on people that attend, because he's going to be speaking or she's going to be speaking,
Yeah.
so that he or she takes ownership of the event as well. It's not only you inviting the community, but the speaker as well, because you don't want to speak to an empty room. So you have an invested interest in like getting people in the room.
Okay.
So once you have that community, and then these are people that already know each other, then you can like use those personal connections to engage.
Got it.
Then like use the tools that you have. Maybe it's not easy to get everyone in a cafe or at an event, so do it online, and people will just connect from their houses, and it's easier for them. Like, I don't know, like the level of like availability of like this type of tools with the host community. That's something that you have to be conscious as well, because sometimes it's not super easy. So, but if the tools are there, then definitely use it.
Okay, got it. And in terms of like a design, actually, this is where I would like actually to sort of analyze. Tendi, I think we did that host sync up in Canggu a few months back, right? Many months back now, where we got everyone together. But what I saw was actually interesting is I think it's important to have, if I'm listening to Ricardo correctly here, there is a message that we want to, of course, unite all the hosts around. But it's important that they get to know each other first, right? Tangi, if we kind of put ourselves back in that room again, how much peer-to-peer engagement was happening between different owners before we started the presentation? And were you satisfied with that level of engagement?
I can say like 80% engagement, like because they know each other, and then just like a few owners, it's like a Villa Cinta, what's it called in Canggu, Villa Fosa owner, because there is not from there.
I see.
I think I was satisfied with that engagement before the webinar, because they are like talk each other like, how is it is it your property have a gas, or how about that, like I think that's engagement that I
Okay,
see.
that's great then. Rian, over to your side. Did you I think Rian, you were at the same event, right? Did you feel it the same way?
I did feel the same way, because in the sense that I know that a community in Canggu, it's like a prototype like we have, because all the property owners already know each other. I don't know if it's that correct. And then when we have that kind of event, it was just like come all together, and then they have like a pretty good discussion. And then when we have like a Q&A discussion, it will just I don't know, like unite them in the terms that they want to know about how we work, and then how the other people work, and how the other owners work, and then how to manage that kind of thing. And they have a discussion as well, like they have an open discussions. And after all, like when they want to know about how to make a claims and Airbnb, and then they make their own discussion without us, like how do you say, like what's the English word? But I think it's they can find out by themselves just by talking to each other. And then look, it's something that that unite the community all together by having that kind of things. Now that we have this kind of conditions with offline and everything, with the remote hostings, they seems pretty fine with that, because they already know each other. They already know how we work, and then how the finance work as well. So I think I'm satisfied. I'm definitely satisfied with that.
Okay, so we had basically offline community groups, and we would get lots of engagement before the actual event started. We then open up with a presentation on what we were trying to lead the community to do, and then afterwards we would follow up with Q&A, and then afterwards we would eat and share again some of that camaraderie. So I think that I used to think those were just social things we did, and the main part was the presentation. But after speaking with Ricardo, it's actually more important to get that kind of peer-to-peer bonding to happen, so that I think, as Rian was saying, the community learns how to serve themselves and how to learn from each other too at the same point.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Actually, that's really, really strong.
And I think like something super important is what is the next step? What is the follow-up? So never end an in-person meeting or a group with next steps, with clear next steps. So when is the next time that we're going to see each other? Or we're not going to see each other? What's the next interaction that we want to do as a community?
Yeah, okay.
And then another thing is let other people know what happened here. So the people that weren't able to attend, whether they confirmed assistance and weren't able to make it, or didn't respond to the email, if it's an email or the invitation. So share with them what happened, a little brief comment of what happened, and here's what you missed, so that they don't want to miss the next one, because the next one is important. And build a cadence. If you're going to do like in-person meetings and you have the bandwidth for that and the budget for that, then have a cadence. So like if it's going to be
Understood.
3 times a year, it's 3 times a year. If it's 2 times a year, it's 2 times a year, but that people know what to expect.
Definitely.
And then if like, and budget yourself. If you can just one like big event annually, then you can do like smaller events, either online or offline, depending on what the situation is. But like never leave something hanging, or like there's always have to be a next step, a next encounter, a next experience together.
That's one thing I learned from Airbnb. I remember the point of every event was to have another event with even better attendance and even better engagement. And I think going over to Tendi real quick then for that, do you think we did that well for that last event we did? Did we actually create an online engagement group after that, or a promise of a future event?
Okay, so after the event, there is some partner that asking us personally, like me and Rafik, for training a bigger, and then the next day we go there again to Canggu again, and then try like a Pondok Juli because they're interesting how to use the tools, and then we train them by one, and then like double A asking about how to make a claim, because there was a guest like broke the glass, and then they think that they cannot claim, right? Then they're asking like what is the procedure of claiming and something, and then yeah, we in the next day there's a lot of some following question that we got from with the traffic as well.
Okay, so in your opinion, Ricardo, these are individual engagements, right? Like with specific people. Is what Tendi said applicable to your advice of keeping the community like aware, or is this something different?
No, it is. And the thing is, like you can continue engagement in various forms. It doesn't have to be in person. It can be like with materials. If you can build a one pager on like how to be better at making claims, or like 1, 2, 3 process of like this is what you want to do. Like take what they need and take what they give you, and then create something. And like creating like shareable content is very important. It's easy enough, and then it can get a man on its own. So if you have a group of people that connect to WhatsApp, and you have this like PDF document that shows you 1, 2, 3 how to do a certain thing, you can share it, and it lives there, and you can have a depository of instruction manuals, or like of the cleaning protocol, and you can design it in a way that is appealing, and you can have a place that people can go and engage with the content.
Okay.
And that also creates more engagement now around like topic areas or like specific expertise, and not necessarily around experiences.
Excellent. And let me go to Andre. I've sort of haven't brought Andre very much into the conversation. Andre, from your perspective, do you see any actionable results, like right off the bat, from what Ricardo has told us, and how that can apply to how we engage in community management in the future?
Yes, I know something from you, Ricardo. Thank you for the insight, everything story that you told to us. So I saw that in the community we have to make always engage the community. I saw that we have to make a community that cannot leave our instruction, so we have to keep there in line to us. And I saw that maybe here, what Bukit Vista can learn is about how to know who's the people who can make an action, make a call to action for our community. I saw that maybe we have to kind of learn on that. We have to make if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned that we have a different people in community. I mean, like you have to be able to handle some part of community. I think here in Bukit Vista we also have to learn about that, how to keep how we can understand really in our part of community, since like maybe we lost some of our community. They don't really want they don't come back for us when we show them some of our program. So I think that this part is something that really mindful to Bukit Vista, and that we have to also learn it for the internal. So I want to say thank you, because that's beautiful thought from you, Ricardo.
No, thank you.
To continue on that one, Andre, do you see who would perhaps be our best brand ambassador in Jogja if we wanted to take somebody's story and then take that and populate it to the rest of the community as our spark? Does anybody come to the top of mind?
The property or the people, sir?
People, and I guess the property that they have.
I think from Dominic, sir.
Oh, I mean, one of our partners, actually.
Our partners, partner, I would say from Utara and Gembala. We have two brand ambassador to show to other community in Yogyakarta.
Okay, and I think that's actually pretty impressive, not just from, like, let's say, an owner point of view, but their properties are also very prestigious properties as well.
Yeah, and also there's support from the partner as well. As our community, they always give a feedback for us. And from that, we also giving them feedback. They give feedback for us. We also give feedback for them. So the kind of communication are building are not only the community, but also the everything in it. I mean, like we give feedback maybe for your problem on your properties. We give feedback about the properties, what service from us. So it kind of built aligned with the company.
Interesting, and that goes back to Ricardo. This sounds like a person who cares, right? This sounds like a person who is engaging and probably one of your archetypes that you're looking for. Somebody who's a natural advocate in this. Okay.
Another thing that I want to point out is the fact that when showcasing like examples or like ambassadors or like expertise, be very mindful of people that are like you can have the aspirational, this is like the main goal, or this person is super successful, has a beautiful property, but you also have to have something that is attainable. So I don't know how diverse your community is, or where in the steps of like success or like either elegance or more humble type of property. Be mindful of what your audience is, so that you cannot put something that is so out there that it feels like I'm never going to be able to do that because, look at my place. So it's always good to have the aspirational and the attainable and have a very delicate balance. So you cannot show a 5-star hotel to a person that has like a 1-bedroom apartment.
I get it. I also know,
it'll shoot yourself in the foot.
That totally, yeah. That's so. Once again, thank you for bringing that back into focus again. I was kind of reminded of why everybody is inspired by the rags to riches story, right? The story of like how from humble beginnings somebody can attain something so amazing, and that's exactly it. It's not a great story about how a rich person became richer, but it is a great story of how a poor person became incredibly. So that part, okay, yeah, that's fairly interesting actually. We've kind of spent an hour now of Ricardo's time. Let me just go around back to see if there's any questions for anybody. Let's go to Rian first. Rian, do you have any final thoughts or questions for Ricardo?
I think I would like to give a final thoughts because in terms of, because I believe that you mentioned it before regarding the professional webinar for the community and then having a champion to build to share the ideas to community. I think I have to. I love that kind of idea because we have a webinar before and we did, right? We already did. pitching as a speaker. So I think the idea of having the professionals that they never have, I think it's going to be a great idea to build the community and then to have to gather all the community, and so that we can just please have the engagement with community and then have the follow up after. So it's more like something that we would like to have the professional webinar. The webinar with the professionals. So I think that's the final thoughts for me, and it's quite insightful. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rian. Let's go next to Andre.
I think it's all. I'm not from my side. It's all good, sir. If I may continue about my explanation before why I choose Kembala one and Apat Utara one is because I know that in Yogyakarta we have two kind of different types of property. We have one like a guest house, one like a villa. So I put two of them because Kembala is villa and Utara is a guest house. So I put that two kind of example to show from the villa one. This is from the villa, and this is for the guest house. So I put that to example because I also saw that we have different types of property owners with different types of accommodation. So I'm just giving you two different examples. So the next is I'm just going to say thank you, Ricardo. I think this thoughtful discussion today we have, and so it's so inspiring. I think that we learn from you, and I think this is the purpose of having a connection with people like from community around the world is just to keep learning and start to implement something that we can take from the people we learn with. So I want to say thank you for you.
We have a community of community managers now.
That is important. No, that's super important.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
We got to reconnect Natalie and Ricardo again. So that
Definitely.
we got two advocates who are. My God! Now that I think about it, everything could be community management. like you can even turn this particular case into a community management case. Okay, let's go to Tendi now. Tendi, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think like what you said, like the most important is what's the next, right? So I will thinking like okay, I got some learn from you as well from this professional networking. Then I will thinking like what is the next that I can do like to implement in the community, like maybe like professional networking with the like one of the best owner, and then spread it out, and then like help them to be a good example to the other community, and then can help them to spread out the message and everything. So I think that's good learning from me today. So thank you very much, Ricardo. So yeah, I will thinking the best action that I will do it after this.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Tendi. And actually, last to Ricardo, did you have any questions about Southeast Asia or I don't know anything that you'd like to that we could share our knowledge with?
How are you doing? Like, how is things happening there? Like, are you back to normal? It's completely different. Like, what is going on?
I'll let Tendi take a stab at that question right now. What do you think? Did things feel normal again?
Okay, so there is some side about the normal, right? So I think about if you're talking about the situation like people going out or like if they mostly stay at home, I think now the people starting to go out, and then start some of the tourism object is still open, but they have like the protocol, and then the limited time to open, and then also like but still like the mask and everything they must to use it, and then if regarding the tourism in here, because Bali is the what's called the main income is from tourism, right, from in Bali. But in tourism I didn't see like the ancient like increase from the tourism, because if I'm looking again like in from our data, the booking is still like very low. It's like just 5 until 10 booking per day, from instead like previously is like 100 booking a day. So I think in the tourism side is still like no changing yet, because I think our airport is start open, but the other country airport is still closed. So we cannot expect a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
What about regional, like closer, like more like internal tourism? That's nothing. That's not something that is super huge there either. No.
yeah, I think in the domestic side,
Hmm.
because a lot of people is fire, right? So they more focus on the
Yeah.
job, to find a job, to saving the money. So they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
want to spend a lot just for traveling, because they was thinking like how I can survive at this moment.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. From at domestic, I think like that. Maybe a 6 month they will, yeah, thinking about the traveling again.
Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, mostly like that. What do you want to know more?
And do you think like there's some like commonalities that you can find like in terms of what I've talked and like things that make sense, that it's, oh yes, it doesn't matter that he's from Puerto Rico and has been working in the United States. It makes sense, right? People are people, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I'll take a stab at that one then, Ricardo, if I may, Tendi. So
Yes.
I think a lot of it is actually really good strategy. So this idea that, and we've heard it from Natalie and yourself too as well, and as you mentioned at the beginning, there are I think correlations. If there's parallels I've noticed in tropical country culture. So
Yes.
like what I've seen is we basically have been trying to, like the elephant analogy, we've been trying to push this thing all on our own, and we get frustrated because it doesn't move, even though maybe the head of the elephant has already moved a little bit, but we didn't really think about, oh, if we can take that and use that to help move the rest of the elephant. So I think that is something that we've heard a few times, and I think that can be immediately applied. And the other thing that we're beginning to realize too, and this is not necessarily in community management, this is more in marketing and getting new members into the community, which is you can't build, I think, a community online before you have strong foundations offline. So meaning like if people don't know each other, they don't like, know what other people's values are, they haven't met, they haven't sensed, what the feel of the room is, they're probably not going to share too much or talk too much. And I see that actually. But if you have a community that's already hot, let's say they just came to a webinar and you move them to Facebook groups or a
Mhm.
WhatsApp group, then they go, yeah, they'll start sharing, they'll start talking, and they'll continue those conversations in that group. So I think yeah, that's immediately actionable. And of course, like the takeaway from Tendi was you don't stop, right? Like you think about what's next, and you think about how to create packets of information so that they can become more shareable. And this idea of sharing, of this idea of don't always be the center point to broadcast a message, get other advocates out there. And
Yeah.
gentlemen, here actually we've been doing that. It used to be like I think I would be the only person to write the recognition post after we had a speaker. But then I started asking, hey, look, if you felt you were moved by it, if you felt like you learned something, you write the recognition post, and then you share in that ownership of that thing, and then what's even better is that the speaker sometimes then they share it, and it just starts propagating more effectively out into the digital realm. So definitely I see that as being a strategic position, a strategic foundation to get multiple voices to speak rather than having a single voice speaking. And yeah, I don't know. There's tons of takeaways actually from this discussion. So at first I was a bit apprehensive because I was like, oh, public policy is quite different, but I realized it's actually the same. I think it's the same no matter. It's actually even more difficult sometimes because, like you said, it's a more abstract concept rather than
Mhm.
something that's more solidly based on income. So I think the challenges are actually if you can. I would imagine if you can do that well, you can probably do community management with a group of people who are learning to learning to earn even more fluently. So yeah, that was good. I got a lot of insights from it. Yeah.
I'm glad that you like it, and I think I want to leave you with this, and using your analogy of the elephant. Don't think of it as like trying to push the elephant, but giving the elephant a reason to move.
Very good. Very good. That's incredible, actually. Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Wow. Okay, that will be the
Well,
link.
thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. You have my contact information. You can like add me and like or follow me wherever. I use Twitter too. If you want my Twitter account, it's mainly in Spanish. And it's a lot of politics, so I don't know if it's gonna be super engaging.
Mhm.
But it's my name Ricardo_L, which is my middle initial.
Okay.
And but you have my LinkedIn, so just follow me on LinkedIn if you want.
We will. That's one of our standard practices, actually, to get more engagement after the event. So, okay, Ricardo, we'll go ahead and publish this out in a few days to say thank you and best of luck. You're in
Thank you so
are you in
much.
Puerto Rico right now?
I'm in Miami
Oh,
right now.
sorry, you're in Miami. Oh, hey, okay, this is off the record. I'll start.